Dan, welcome. So tell me, how was it to immigrate to US? Do you remember Serbia? Do
Canada,
you
come on,
remember growing
Canada,
up there?
Canada, not
Canada.
US.
Damn it, US. Ah, no, we need to cut it out. No,
Start
forget this.
again,
Oh my God, I cannot confuse US and Canada.
please.
That's
Not
crazy.
again.
That's crazy. It's like how do I differentiate? Okay, one of them has Trump, another one doesn't have Trump.
One of them's
That's
frozen.
the easiest one. Yeah. So okay. So how was it migrating to Canada?
You know, it was a incredible adventure for sure, and an incredible change. I mean, for the first 10 years of my life, I had not really been taller than a small tree, and all of a sudden I'm flying across the ocean, landing in a completely different environment, completely different language. One of the things that I remember as a kid, like that still embarrasses me to this day, is like in the first day somebody was like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I said Vuk, and they said, "Oh, and that's your name? What's your name?" And I said 10. So, like the for whatever reason, that is a little mistake that has always stuck with me. And in 2004, when I immigrated to Canada, there wasn't a lot of immigrants, right? I went to a completely rural school in Canada's smallest province, where my sister and I were the only foreign people within the entire school. And I actually look at that as a really big gift, because what that meant was that I had to learn English, and I've always been a talker. And the only way that I could socialize and get that extroverted energy out of me was to immediately just fight it and try to understand, why is it chicken and not kitchen. Those are some of the things that I remember as a kid always being confused about, or neither or either. And it's funny, like I would get red eared whenever I would make those mistakes, and people would point them out. But those were incredibly important social learning lessons, and I think transitioning, all those things transitioned me incredibly well into the world of sales and engineering that I found myself in, where I blended those two things together again, kind of with that educational background of engineering, and forcing myself into another foreign world of sales and having to learn another language, right? Or another way to use the English language to sell. So, all those little things, and you would know yourself as an immigrant, all those little challenges that we have the privilege, that adversity that we have the privilege to overcome, really does build character, experience, and is something that I don't take for granted, because 99% of the people that you grow up around who didn't experience that didn't have those learning experiences and those lessons that were kind of forced upon them. So yeah, I mean I think that's that immigrant mentality, or immigrant advantages, that we do kind of have to adapt and overcome, especially those of us who kind of do it at a young age.
I just think it's impossible to explain to someone how it feels to be an immigrant. I think it's just the only thing that you can actually experience, and yeah, it's incredible. It's quite a journey, I would say.
Well, just like
Did
you're immigrating now, right? And I'm in the middle of that
yeah.
process as well. I arrived in Portugal at the beginning of 2023 by choice this time, right? When I immigrated to Canada, I didn't even know what that meant. I was just strapped along for the ride. But over the last 3 years, I've been kind of following my own immigration journey from Canada, and being grateful for not having to shovel snow for 3 winters in a row now feels very good. But I'm back in those challenges of learning a new language, really motivated to learn how to speak Portuguese, integrating in the community, and finding new networks, and both in the Salesforce world and in my personal world, like you and I talked about our shared journeys of entering the martial arts spheres, right? So yeah, man, I guess it's just such a wealth of forced experiential learning, right? When you immigrate to a new country, and I trust you kind of are feeling the same thing over the last few years, right?
Totally. And are you gonna stay longer in
I
Portugal?
just got my residency visa, which puts me into
Nice.
the next 9-10 months of Portuguese bureaucracy waiting for the actual residency. So certainly, yeah, I want to stay here. I love it. I love it.
That's cool. That's cool. Did you so since we're speaking about the childhood, did you had some kind of signs that you were like entrepreneur, or and like into like some different behavior, entrepreneurship when you were
Absolutely,
a child?
absolutely. I mean, from the first moment that we came to Canada, I was working, right? So I had a paper route, right? The moment I could, I was working. But where I like the first, what I would consider my true, there's two early signs of entrepreneurship, and I'll share them both. One was a really small week-long experience when I was in like grade 5 or 6. I don't know what equivalent that is in everybody's world, but that's the Canadian version. I think it was grade 6, where in the school we had like a little fundraiser or something, and we had tickets to sell for some kind of a draw. And then they said the student that sells the most tickets is going to get to throw a pie in the face of the principal in front of the entire school. And I thought, I gotta be that guy. That's gotta be me, right? And all the students were kind of just saying, "Oh, my parents are going to sell the tickets at their work for me," right? That's what everybody thought. But my parents didn't really have those relationships to sell tickets for me at school. My dad was working his butt off digging ditches in all across the province, and he wasn't thinking about selling tickets to anybody. And my mom was actually back in school at the time, so she certainly wasn't going to be selling any tickets for me. So I thought, I need to build relationships with all of the teachers. So even the teachers who never taught me anything, I went to everybody's door during recess, during lunch, after school. I went to every teacher's classroom, and I would say, okay, I need you to buy at least 2 tickets from me. And if you don't have the money today, I'm coming back tomorrow. And I came back every single day until every single teacher bought tickets from me. And I ended up winning that contest, and I ended up being the one to pie the principal in front of the whole school. So that's like, if I think of like the OG, like the experience that I had in entrepreneurship, that was absolutely one. And then the second one, you might find this funny. I don't know if you ever played a video game called Diablo 2. I don't know if you'd heard of that. But in essence, the most simplest way I can explain it is it's a role-playing game. You kill monsters. Those monsters drop items. Sometimes those items are really bad, and sometimes those items are great. Like any video game where there is some competitive nature, there are people who are going to be using their skills in programming to try to cheat around that system. I happened to meet a gentleman who I don't really know his real name. I knew him by an online name, and he had been scripting bots that would play the game automatically. And him and I had an agreement that he will give me access to all of his characters that are just storing all of his best items, and I will sell those items for him online on a forum. And he would get 80% of it, and I would take a 20% commission. So my unique advantage to selling those items, I thought, you know what, I can't just make a boring list of here's what I've got. Let me make funny pictures and memes of all the things that I have and sell them. And lo and behold, I had lots and lots and lots of success in kind of selling items for him and getting what we called forum gold for myself. And I would take that forum gold, I would buy gold in another video game, which I would then trade for money, which in prepaid Visa gift cards, which I would then use to buy computer components for myself.
Why do you think is the case? Because like I have the same stories. Like I have the same stories from the childhood, and I know very few people who are like this. And that's like something. It's definitely not so. Like I don't know why. Like why do you think? Why did you have it, but all the like other people around usually don't have it? Why do you think is the case?
I don't know. I think the cop-out answer would be something like, well, my parents always said that, I can't buy an Xbox unless I make the money myself. And I can't, like, that could be, I think that's a cop-out answer, because I'm sure, like you said, everybody's parents would have said, hey, we're not going to buy you an Xbox because we can't buy you an Xbox, right? Unless you can buy it yourself, we're not buying it. But I don't know, man. Some people have natural abilities for singing. Some people have natural abilities for sports and different things. I don't think I was, I had lots of musical talent and plenty of sports talent, but what I really was driven by was that vision to create something, right? Vision to build, not just to follow, but to create, right? And combine that with that personality to not really want to be bossed around by anybody. I don't know, but ultimately, I think if you and I could answer that question in this call, we'd be able to make a lot of money, but I don't think there is ever going to be a true answer of why some of us and not all of us. And I've had lots of these conversations with some of my friends who I've grown up with that have become entrepreneurial, and people that I've met through my entrepreneurial journey as of late. It's kind of hard. It's I don't think I know the answer to that question perfectly. I wish I did, but I don't.
No, totally. I mean, I also have no idea. Like I have no idea, and sometimes I see people and like I'm like, you're in such a good position. You could build a business. Why are you not doing this? And like that was like when I was working as a developer, that was the same for me. I saw people like super experienced, very good
Good point.
teachers, very good, and I'm like, why are you not doing this? And I have no idea why they're not doing. I have no idea why I'm doing that. No idea.
Fear of failure, fear of selling. You know, I'll tell you this, right? Over the
Mhm.
last 2 years, I've been really focused on, as I've had, when I have time, and in the world of when you're running a consulting firm, we've got sometimes peaks and valleys, right? And every time I'm in a little valley, I don't just sit there and do nothing, right? I'm building resources, building things, right? And one of the main things that I've been building in all of my little valleys over the last 2 years, which thankfully I have not had enough time to complete the project because we've been busy, and I'm grateful for it. But one important project that I'm working on is a blueprint program that's going to help other people who have Salesforce skills, who have some desire to work solo, but are lacking some of the confidence to do it, right? I really want to put a blueprint program for people to follow in my footsteps, and eliminate a lot of the discomfort that exists with kind of stepping out on your own. But I can tell you, having interviewed close to 30, 40 people, and had answers from people, and even more than that on questionnaires regarding that topic, the number one thing people fear is having to put themselves out there. Most people say it as, I'm afraid to sell, but really what they mean is, I'm afraid to like put myself out there and then fail in front of the world. It's not the it's rarely the fear of can I do this? It's more so the fear of, if other people see me fail, how am I going to recover from that?
So if someone has this fear, right? If someone has this fear of rejection or fear of starting out, selling, going there, asking people, how do they actually overcome this fear?
Well, that's a large. So if I can narrow it down to like the fear of selling, right? A large part of that is actually transforming the perspective that you have on it. Like, I don't ever consider, like, I spent 3 years selling for 150 people consulting firm, where I had to sell $1.5 million per year, and that was really about, like, you really got to get out there and sell and push and push and push. And what I realized, and kind of not even what I realized, just naturally, when you're working for yourself, right, and you have to, I don't need $1.5 million. In fact, there's be no physical way for me to do $1.5 million worth of work, right? So really what I'm selling, really what I'm trying to do is to find people who will benefit from what I do, having a clear strategy and a focused target of where you can provide value. And when you talk to those people, instead of trying to in your head think that it's some kind of a game of convincing them and tricking them into wanting to spend money, if instead you turn it into a collaborative exercise to say, hey, you know what? Let's get to a place where what I do best brings you value, solves your problems. And if it doesn't, let's walk away from each other, and let's be ready to walk away and not feel any stress and anxiety around being honest with each other, right? If I'm ready to be honest with you as a prospective client to say what you need is not going to be best done by me, then I'm going to be also very ready and confident and you're going to believe me, and you're going to understand that, okay, we are talking about a problem that I can solve and I will be able to solve in a valuable way to you, right? So it's not even selling, right? It's like partnering. It's finding places and knowing where you do provide value, having that internal confidence, communicating transparently. And when you meet people like that, and you think and you approach the situation that way, they're going to mirror and reflect that back on you. And when you get to that agreement, hey, let's do this, it's not going to be something where they felt like they were sold to, right? Like, it's not like, oh, you go to some tourist trap area and someone's chasing you around and selling you a fake Gucci handbag, and you buy that and now you're feeling dirty, like, oh, what the hell did I buy this for, right? Buyer's remorse, right? All of those things I think are ideas that people have that like stress them out. Well, what if the person regrets going with me, and what if I can't do? Okay, well, slow down. What are you good at? Make sure you find the people who have a need for the skills that you have. Communicate openly. See in them the reflection that they understand what you can do, and partner. And it's going to be a success, right? If you have desperation and fear and you think that you need to trick somebody, then you're not selling, right? You're now this guy selling a fake handbag on the side of the road that everyone's going to hate. They just paid you to get away from you. Versus you really want to partner with people, you know what you're good at, and when you find those people, you communicate openly. It's not even selling to me, right? Like I have to sell, quote unquote. But for the last 5 years that I've been operating Maverick, I don't feel like, and I bet you, if you ask my clients, they would tell you the same thing, that it didn't feel like I was running some kind of a sales pitch at them. It was like, hey, can I genuinely help you? Let's see what we can do. And let's do it in a way that's affordable for you. And that we're collaborating and building something that matters and actually solves problems. So that for that one specific fear that people have, that's really the vision that I'm always trying to explain to people. It's you're just helping people.
Yeah, totally. Once I had as probably most people, I had this idea. Okay, I am a Salesforce developer, and okay, I'm coding. So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go and start my coding agency. I'm gonna start my Salesforce agency, right? It failed miserably. First of all, I was like maybe 20 years old, so it was okay. And second of all, it failed at the stage where I just didn't know how do I even get the hold of clients? Like, before I even start speaking to someone, how do I actually like find the person to speak to? What do you think about this for the people who have the same problem?
Man, it's very fair point. This is going to sound maybe crazy to some people, but I've spent $0 on advertising. Okay. For 5 years, I've spent $0 on advertising, and we've grown to a team of 4.5, 5 now. Okay. For the first 3 some years, it was just me. Then it got, like I said, those valleys and troughs, right? Some clients come, engagements go, they come back. And it got to a point where there was never enough time that enough of them left that I could do everything for everybody. So I had to grow, put in a full-time developer, put in a junior consultant, put in a senior consultant with me, right? So the reality is that today, it's never been easier to find people who need our help. You've got Reddit, you've got YouTube comments, you've got LinkedIn, you've got Discord channels, you've got Facebook groups, and of course, the biggest area of them all is the Trailblazer community. Every single hour, there are dozens, if not hundreds of people who are being tasked by their company to solve Salesforce problems, or business owners that are trying to solve Salesforce problems that are putting their hand up and saying, hey, I need some help, right? And the success that I found, and this is a large part of what I talk about in my course, so everybody listening to this is getting this tidbit for free, and I'm happy to give it for free, is that I'm never trying to sell anybody. I'm always trying to help. And if you go and see on the Trailblazer community, for example, I've answered thousands and thousands and thousands of questions. Maybe not thousands and thousands and thousands of questions, but definitely thousands of questions. And I can't tell you, well, I can tell you, if I sat down, I could read it. If I counted, I could, but it's more than a handful of my best clients came from people who I answered even the simplest question to and said, it's this setting. Or I sat down, I said, hey, that sounds like an interesting problem you have with the flow. Let's sit down for 30 minutes and fix your issue. In fact, this week I've been in final negotiations with a fantastic potential client that a year ago I helped the admin with some problem that he had in the community. I wasn't thinking about and chasing him and wanting to sell him at all, right? Like 0%. No part of me was like pitch slapping people, is chasing people. I genuinely want to help people because every single time I help somebody, I'm learning, I'm seeing a different business and how they use Salesforce. It's an experiential net benefit for me for my time. But 1 out of 40 people that I help comes back, whether it's in a month, in a year. Sometimes it's even been like 2 or 3 years where people call me up and say, hey, we need this and we need that. Is that something you can do? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But that to me is one very obvious source of potential deals that exist where you're not feeling like some annoying salesperson. It doesn't cost me anything but my time, and the time that I put in benefits me anyway. So it's really kind of like a self-serving engine. Then, of course, if anybody is in our ecosystem, you need to make relationships with Salesforce, right? Like when you have a client that you help, you need to be communicating with their account executive, showing them the kind of value that you brought, explaining to them, again, what you're good at, and hoping and building that relationship that they will see somebody else that has the same problem or a similar problem and they come back to you, right? So that would be the other source of the clients that we have, right? And then the third, obviously, is the clients themselves having benefited from you when somebody asks them and hey, who would you recommend that they recommend? So those 3 would be the main sources of business that that we have, right? Is helping people and building those relationships, not expecting anything in return, communicating and building relationships with Salesforce account executives, because they will go, they themselves will go far and see a lot of opportunity. And then of course, actually doing a good job for your clients. If you get that triangle down, you're even in downturn times, like we might be a little bit in little shrinkages like we feel right now, you can maintain. And again, if you're a smaller team, if you're working by yourself, those downturns are a lot easier to manage than a team of 150 consultants, right? So I hope that answers the question.
And I think people in general like overestimate how hard it is, how easy it is to find someone who is actually good at like what they do, right? Agencies, like I was searching for people to cut my podcast and to help me with the podcast, and it was so hard to find anyone who is like actually good at this. Like you literally go through like even like the most like known companies or something who do this, and they all suck at this. So if you're really great at what you do, if you're really great at Salesforce, then you will get the clients, right? Like people will not just go out of like will not terminate the contract with you just because they want to, right? If you're really great, they're gonna stick. So
yeah, what's that? I mean, it's funny, two Slavic guys talking in English about Salesforce. The cream always rises to the top. Dang it. The cream of the crop, the cream rises to the top. I messed it up. I tried my best and I still messed it up. Right. But it's
no
true.
idea.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to correct you anyway. For me,
right.
it's all the
that's
same.
The premise of that saying, right? It's that the best people do stand out. And again, it's not about being the best at everything for everyone. The number one thing that has helped me be both beneficial for my clients and capable of I mean, a lot of businesses fail within the first year, right? So getting to 5 years is close to 5 years, closing in 5 years, very close to 5 years, 3 months away from 5 years, is it only happens because we didn't try to be everything for everybody, right? I know that I cannot solve every single problem for every single company. And I have a strategy and a knowledge and understanding of the types of companies, the types of change-ready organizations where we do bring benefit, where they are, what they look like, how big they are, the types of problems that they're facing with Salesforce. And then I'm not wasting my time and I'm not wasting their time, right? If you are, and again, if we are still focused on that selling element, right, of being entrepreneurial and actually, just to pause there, right? Like there's such a misconception that entrepreneurship is having a really good idea. It's not. That's not what entrepreneurship is at all. Entrepreneurship is having the capability to simplify and find people who need problems to be solved within your capabilities. That's entrepreneurship, right? If I can solve problems better, faster, more affordably than my competition, then I'm going to win. Not can I reinvent the wheel, right? There's a few people, those unicorns, that reinvent some wheels and they change the paradigm, but most of us can be pretty happy, pretty satisfied and successful if we just figure out where we can actually bring value. And that to me is a much easier road of entrepreneurship than inventing a whole new paradigm, right? So
absolutely. I totally agree. What I wonder what was the hardest for you in the last 5 years that you've been doing the business? What was like the hardest thing about building the business?
Oh man, none of it felt really hard. Everything, like the hardest thing is definitely not being distracted, like I said, right? Were there a few clients that I regret taking? For sure. I think ultimately, if you put me back, if you teleported me back 5 years, there would be very few things that I wouldn't do the same again. Probably there would be some things that I would focus on more and double down on. Maybe some things that I would do a little bit less. Like, for example, I spent so much time in the early days trying to generate content on LinkedIn, and I realized I wasn't speaking to the right audience at all, right? Like it wasn't resonating because the people who were buying from me didn't really need to know good tips about Salesforce best practices. What they really wanted to know was how to avoid having problems and how to solve them fast, not what's the best way to do this and where to use record types and not. And right. So, but the hardest thing, man, I don't know. None of it felt really hard because I was confident in my abilities. I didn't veer out of my capabilities. I had a focus, I had a strategy that I worked on for a year before I ever started. So I think I avoided a lot of hardship by being intentional and having clear hypotheses and focusing on those. I'm a scientist at heart, right? So I knew and had some ideas of how I could do things differently. I had a solid plan. I had a strong network. I jumped in, put in the effort that needed to be put in, and didn't give up. I guess the hardest thing the hardest thing is consistency. Is never getting down. If a client ultimately decides against something, or if somebody pauses work or whatever, right? Like the hardest thing, I guess, would be just to keep going. But like I said to you, like we talked about earlier with martial arts, that getting up after being tossed on my back and losing in front of people or losing behind, even in the gym, was never too hard for me to get up. So I'm thankful to say that nothing about this journey has felt hard to the point where I would be where it would be of note. You know what I mean? Like I wish I had a sob story for that, but I just don't.
This is very interesting. Because a lot of people have this thing in mind, like whenever I say, okay, doing on business, they immediately imagine like you wake up at 5, you start grinding, and then you sit till the evening, and you spend like these years, and maybe then you have a business. It wasn't like this for you.
No, it was not like that for me at all. No. And right now, I wake up, 8 a.m. is when my alarm's set. Sometimes I wake up at 6:40. Sometimes I wake up at 7:40. I'm at the beach with my dog, my partner, for an hour, go get some groceries, come back, eat lunch, start work at, 1, 2 p.m. Most of my clients are 4 to 8 hours behind me. None of them feel like a pain in the ass because I don't choose to work with pain in the ass people. We do lots of cool stuff. I've got a great team that is incredibly helpful, that is collaborative, that's good at what they do. And I feel rewarded every single day with what I do. And, I can't imagine a way to mess it up. You know what I mean? Like at this point in time, I think that we can keep building this traction. We've got a proven way, a proven methodology that really brings value to clients. We've got, even our first client from the first 2 months is still our client to this day, because we show up, we care, we genuinely, give a shit about our clients. And if you approach anything in life that you do with genuine passion, you're going to be rewarded. It's not going to feel like what again, another American saying or Canadian English saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Is there some things in every project that feel like work? Certainly, right? Big data manipulations and gigantic flows that need to be debugged, and undoing spaghetti code that somebody left behind, of course, can feel like work. But ultimately, when we partner with clients, it's because we want to bring them value, and I see a real partnership that exists there, and I see, a company that's doing good, who we can help do better. It's always, like, to me, that's always rewarding. So, yeah, man, building that traction when you have an idea of who you can help and you don't try to help the wrong people, you're never going to feel like, why am I doing this? Right? You're never going to be asking yourself, why am I doing this?
This is amazing. I think this is very cool, because it's one of those myths that I'm trying to tell people, that if you're working for yourself, it doesn't mean that you have to be working more. Often it means that you have to even work less. The hardest in my business was when I was working full-time for someone else. That was harder than building the business for me personally. So I can only encourage people to go for it, because it might be that you're going to be less stressed and working less and more fulfilling job.
Oh, no doubt, man. I can't tell you the night and day difference from, like I said, carrying a pretty big quota over your head and constantly having, a VP of sales and a commercial and his boss above your head. And then, big stakes with being a giant partner of Salesforce and all the pressure that comes with that. It was a night and day difference when I stopped working in that large team to working for myself, when I just had to, kill what I need to eat instead of trying to feed a whole army. It was the stress was dramatically reduced. Now, of course, man, is there some moments of desperation, moments of stress, like I said, especially early on when you aren't feeling as busy as you want to be, of course, right? But as long as you put in the effort. And again, and again, this is, like I said, the program that I'm working on is to help people understand what that runway is going to look like, and give them the confidence, because it's not everybody, like we talked about, they have the capability and they have the ability, and they certainly could do it, but they don't have that internal drive to risk and do this unless everything has been kind of, every I has been dotted and T has been crossed, which is the bridge that I'm trying to build. Like that blueprint that I want to give people is like, hey, you can do this, believe in yourself and follow this blueprint and you're going to get there, right? Is kind of the vision that I have, and is the passion that drives me, like I said, to work on that program, because I know that there's so many people out there that the only thing they're lacking is a little bit of structure, because they're so used to all the structures that are given to them, and that's the discomfort that they feel from entrepreneurship, is that lack of structure. Well, who's going to be my boss? Who's going to tell me what to do? Who's going to tell me to wake up? Well, you know what? You're going to wake up because you're going to care to do this, and you're going to be driven by it, and you're going to feel way more rewarded in your career if you're working with again, you're not working for yourself, you're working for your clients, right? Like it's not some solo thing where you're sitting in a black box, right? The number one thing that solopreneurship, like I started as, is a solo venture, right? Your bosses are your clients. You've got partners that you could be collaborating with. Like there's so many people around you that you're going to leverage and work with and collaborate with, that it's definitely not some kind of alone individual journey. But if you're distracted and trying to focus on a bunch of stuff that isn't something you're good at, it's always going to be more hard than if you actually understand where you're good and you find people that need that skill. So, and again, when you just need yourself, when it's just for you, you don't need to find more than a handful of people who trust you to start, right? You just don't, because you're going to bring that value.
I have two controversial things that I want
go.
to just see if you agree or disagree with me, or general your opinion on that. The first one is that you can start a business just for the motivation of money.
You can't.
What do you think about this? You can.
Of course you can. Right? But like
no passion needed for flows.
Yeah, like again, if you, as long as you have, I call it the Salesforce solopreneur circle, right? As long as you have, and I'll simplify it here. If you have a good foundation of technical understanding in Salesforce, ideally technical understanding of certain specific actual business industries and specific niche business practices, and you have a capability to learn, and you have a network, right? That's your foundation. You're going to be able to bring value to companies, right? What is value? Value is you are creating a reason for them to pay you, because when they pay you money, they make more money, right? They have a return on investment. The value you're bringing them through your time and your knowledge is worth the money that they're paying you. And why do any of us work? Work is for money. So why wouldn't that be a fantastic motivator, right? To be especially in our industry, right? If you're a consultant right now and you're working for somebody else, I'm speaking to you right now. You're being paid probably a decent amount of money, better than most people, most of your peers that aren't in our ecosystem, but your company is making money off of your back. What are they providing you? They're providing you clients, which you maybe are afraid to get yourself. You have your own computer. Maybe they have a Salesforce license or two, or some Jira or something that they're paying for to have you log into, some system, some email address. Okay, how much money do you think that's costing your company? Right? Maybe they're paying some liability insurance. They're paying lots of money in marketing. They've got sales team that they're paying. Okay, so that's where the difference between the 175 to 250 plus an hour that is being paid for your time, and what part of that are you getting? A third, a quarter, 20%, right? Why? Because they're the ones that are finding the client, and they're the ones that are running the infrastructure. So obviously, if you work for yourself, you're going to be able to make more money, or the same amount of money, like Igor said, the same amount of money, but for less work. So certainly money can be a motivator, and the economics of our industry, especially from a consulting and development outsource perspective, is such that there's a ton of money being left on the table if you are not working for yourself. A ton of money being left on the table.
I think this is so important to like hear for some people. When I was trying to start my business, I always heard, don't start the business if you don't have a passion for it. Don't start the business if you only want money. And I was like, I only want money. Like back when I was starting it, like I don't care about any of this. I just want to get paid well, and I just want to have like decide my life, and that's all. And I think that this can be a good motivation. I don't know why people are so against it.
Most of the people that would tell you that don't have any motivation, right? Like if you can't be motivated by something intrinsic. For me, the money side, and which is one of the reasons why I don't gouge my clients and don't care to, there's some value I believe in a competitive advantage that I have because I'm not only motivated by money. But certainly I know lots of people, man, I was just talking to a friend. He just sold us, he's working full time, and he sold a little side project because he's incredibly talented. I won't say much more than that in a specific area of Salesforce. He just sold a 20-hour engagement for $7,500. What can you do the math? That's $375 an hour, US, right? So certainly there's some people that are incredibly talented, and the only motivation he would have to work on the side outside of his job is money. And because of that motivation, he is both commanding and getting incredibly high rates that I could never in my stomach. I could never ask somebody to pay that much for me, but maybe I should. Maybe I should. I won't, but maybe I should. And as you see, some people do. So, I can tell you firsthand, like I said, that there's plenty of companies that when you have that capability, they're happy to pay you, lawyer rates for your time, even for our Salesforce skills, right? So.
Perfect. Yes. The second controversial thing that I have.
Second one. That was only the first one.
The second one. So it was the first one. Now the second one. Being a solopreneur or a freelancer is the worst stage of the business.
Is the worst stage?
Yes, it's the worst stage.
Oh, the worst.
You know
the
why?
Worst. Sorry, buddy.
The worst.
The worst
yes,
stage.
It's the worst stage because from one side you have all the stuff that you need to do. Right? So you basically run your own business, but you don't have any team to rely on. So you have all the downsides of having your own business, but you don't have any upsides where you have a team that can help you out. What do you think about this?
Yeah, completely disagree, right? I guess, is that how you feel? Or is this just
Yes, this is how I feel. So basically I can tell from my experience, right? Obviously, I'm in the teaching business in B2C, right? I'm teaching people, so I'm not really in the consulting business. But until I had my first 2 employees where I could offload stuff on them and free up my time, I felt pretty busy, all the time, busy, some stuff to do. And then once I had those employees, I finally felt like I'm building something. Once I switched from just working all the time for the client and trying to get paid all the time to actually working on the business, building systems, building the engine of the business itself. That's where I felt way easier. And that's why I feel like the being freelancer or solopreneur is actually one of the worst. And worst maybe is not the best word for it, but probably the hardest, I would say. The hardest stage of the business.
I definitely don't agree. I mean, ultimately, for me, the plan wasn't to have employees, right? But through success, it became impossible to either tell people to stop working with me, which I didn't want to, right? Or not look for any new clients, which I didn't want to. So adding people certainly brought that advantage, but it also has introduced challenges, right? Managing people is never without its challenges. And for me, and I feel for me the part of managing people is just sometimes is like the control element, right? I was so used to having control of everything that now I've had to let go of control certain things. Now having the right people, which I feel I do, has made that a lot easier, and kind of doing that for the last year has softened that stress element of it. But no, for me, when I was solo, it felt wonderful, right? Things were working well. I had a good plan and I was executing to it. So I would say, I bet you if you and I teleported back to the Igor that started solo and we gave Igor some good advice and we gave him a good blueprint, he would have had way less stress than he had in reality over the history. So I would
Yes.
not agree with that, and I would certainly hope that people don't take your mindset of that, because that's against everything I'm trying to teach people. So no, I don't agree, and I think that with the right approach and the right preparation, like you said, I think you were young, maybe a little bit inexperienced. There is, to me, minimum 3, ideally 5 years of true experience in a consulting stage before you jump into working solo is key. Obviously, having that ability to focus and understand and know how to find clients is going to be would have probably helped you. Like, and when I say find clients, I mean like finding the right clients that wouldn't feel like difficult to work with and stressful to collaborate with. So yeah, there's definitely ways and tools and things that, at least in my experience, I was able to put into action that made being solo incredibly rewarding, fun, flexible, and not at all any more stressful than working for somebody else. So yeah, it's a good. I mean, I'm glad that you brought it up, and I'm sad that you had that experience. But you're young. That's an experience that you'll be able to learn from and B, reapply, and both, like you said. But you found like you said, hey, you know what? When I was able to actually focus on the business and have some people that I could use to facilitate those processes and systems that I was trying to put into place, then I started to feel more comfortable. Beautiful, man. That's awesome, right? Like that's problem solving, right? That's a talent that you have, right? Especially as a developer, right? Coding doesn't have to just mean we're writing in a language, right? You're coding a system of human process facilitation, right? And they're using tools and technologies to execute certain processes that you laid out for them. Well, that's like writing a script, isn't it?
I think it just shows that, they're just different ways of building the business, right? You can, depending what kind of business you're building and what kind of person you are, you're going to build a completely different businesses, right? Some people are like naturally, like we spoke before, naturally more into talking, naturally have more content mind. They want to create content. Some people don't want to do that. Some people are better at actually delivery, the team building. So everyone has own strength, and it's just a question of like, you're kind of not building yourself towards the business. You're kind of like building business that fits your lifestyle and fits what you want to see out of the business and what you want to get out of it. So it's totally normal that like everyone has a different business style.
Of course, man. Of course. Just like in martial arts, right? Everyone's got a little
Right.
Whether it's boxing, like you did, like most of your countrymen who are phenomenal at it, and just like the jiu-jitsu world that you're entering now, right? We all have our own little style and our own little shells, our guards, our little attacks, our little defenses. So it's the same in business. Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, business and professional in our career, right? In that form of expression that we have. Now, some people, like you said, not only are they introverted, but some people just don't, like I've got a friend that for him, work time is strictly trading time for money, zero passion, zero anything, but I go to my work and I come back, and that's when my life is on pause from the time I'm at the office to the time that I leave, and then the rest of that is my actual life. Whereas for me, I'm just as equally alive when I'm doing stuff like this with you and communicating with potential and active clients and leading my team as I'm alive when I'm letting CC run on the beach and chase a rock or something like that, right? So we're all a little bit different, aren't we? We're all a little bit different.
That's true. That's very true. I wanted to ask you also one thing that for me personally was crucial is finding mentors. Like for the first 2-3 years, I didn't have much success in business until I kind of figured out that I can actually go and pay people for the skill that I need. And I can actually go and try to find mentors, people who are more experienced, people who have done it already, and kind of just pay them the money and get 10 years of experience compressed into me in just a year or something. Did you have the same experience? What do you think about how crucial it is for building the business?
So paying for knowledge is incredibly important, right? I went to school for engineering, and the number one thing that I take away from that I apply was a lesson that we got day one, class one, from Professor Don McEwen, who said, hey guys, just so you know, somebody's going to tell you engineering's hard, but all we're going to be doing is taking problems, breaking them down into small pieces, and drawing them. So to me, I've applied that in everything I do, right? From even before starting my business, while I wouldn't say I had mentors that I paid to coach me, I certainly had a couple of people that I followed very closely and developed relationships with on LinkedIn, who created great content, who recommended me really good books. One book that I recommend to everybody is called Play to Win, is what it's called. That's a phenomenal book on focusing in and understanding really where your business is going to play. Like, what's that playing field? Like, I thought all those things that I talked about, right? Knowing who you can really serve. And then there is a fantastic business consultant by the name of Dennis Gielen. He has a couple of really good books. One of them is called The Zero In Formula that I would recommend. Dennis is a phenomenal resource. And certainly people can go and pay him, and that is a part of what he does, but he's always been incredibly generous with his time with me, and I've helped him a lot in developing some of his course materials and things. So certainly he's mentored me. And then for my own program that I'm building, because I wanted to make sure that I created something that brought true value to people, I invested myself in a program that's designed to help people who have some skill build a program that actually brings value and develops a strong community and isn't just something where I'm just selling a course, right? And that's called the Authority Accelerator. So that's something that wasn't cheap, but has been an incredibly good investment in helping me have a community of my own for people who are interested in building communities of their own. So, and even just like taking that example, right? Just finding any community, finding any people who you can kind of reflect and see in their journey, your future, right? Seeing where they're at now and the path that they've carved, seeing some of that and reflecting and understanding that some of that is where you want to follow. You don't have to pay them. Certainly you can. There's lots and lots of free resources for pretty much any kind of knowledge. But as you and I talked about earlier, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I didn't believe that I had to like come up with some crazy unique propositions, but I knew that if I combined some good principles of engineering, problem solving, breaking things down and drawing them, documenting things well, like we did in engineering, which doesn't happen often in Salesforce, and finding companies who I can partner with that want to collaborate, that want to have an internal resource that's not some black box, do everything outside of your purview and put you in a support model forever, right? Those were my hypotheses, and that's what Maverick was founded around. And certainly with the help of some of those resources and some of those individuals that I mentioned, it helped build and reinforce and give me some stability, give me some foundational elements that I followed through. And if I kind of just closed my eyes and ears and didn't listen to anybody else, I wouldn't be as far as I am, right? So to your point, it's good to always be looking at being coached by people. Same thing as martial arts, right? We always need to have a sensei, right? So there is no journey that's brand new for us, right? And if it maybe for some, but often it's not. Often you are following the path of some people, creating your own little dimension to that path. But ultimately, if we listen to people who've done something before, succeeded before, emulate what's there, and creatively apply our unique selves to those proven paths, you're gonna find success, right? So good point.
Absolutely. If people want to connect with you, where can they go?
LinkedIn would be the best for sure. Find me on LinkedIn. My name's unique enough that it's not going to be hard to find the right guy. It's a bow tie picture. You're going to see me there. Check out our website that's about to be refreshed, mvrk.ca. And soon we're going to be launching a free app called First Line Support on the App Exchange. That's going to be that's a fantastic tool that we use with our clients and that I've given away at Dreamforce presentations and lots of other conferences. That's for if you're an admin, especially, or even if you're a consultant and you want to put this in your clients' orgs. It's a way for the entire user base to, within Salesforce, request help directly from a record or anywhere in Salesforce, put in screenshots or attachments, and then you can track and kind of collaborate with those users and understand where a lot of problems are coming from, tracking where they're coming from. So it's a fantastic little app that hopefully will be live in the App Exchange over the coming months. If you want a sneak peek of it, you want to have access to it right now, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to either give you our beta version of the unmanaged package, or we can work with you to install the actual full package in your org even before it's publicly available on the App Exchange. So those would be kind of the three things that. And yeah, if you're interested in solo stuff, let me know. I've got lots and lots of material that I've been developing for that program. If you want to take a look at that, the only thing I ask is give me some feedback back when you read it. I'm happy to give it away for free, and I often do. So yeah, I've got lots that I'm happy to share. So if any of that feels like something that you would benefit from, find me on LinkedIn. Let's chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to attach the links down on YouTube and everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Igor.
And
thanks for running with me. This was a fantastic
Thank you.
conversation.